The sky was grey and the sunlight couldn't penetrate it, as if it was covered by a black gauze, which made people feel extremely depressed. The ground was rocky and cold and dark. Near a bare stone mountain, guns roared and fire flew. The obsidian mountain is as tall and steep as a knife, with sharp edges and corners. The dazzling firelight flashed continuously on the mirror-like stone surface, but it was fleeting, dissolving into the darkness. Looking up, a huge humanoid creature is climbing on the mountain wall. It is tens of meters high, with a pair of huge recurved horns, a sheep-head human body, strong limbs and a tail like a lizard curled behind it. The skin all over his body was rough and thick, showing the dark red color of hemorrhage scab, and it was covered with raised blood vessels, hideous and terrifying. Under the cortex, there seemed to be magma and fire flowing, with the ups and downs of the chest shrinking and shrinking, bright and dark. Its nostrils continuously sprayed hot steam, as if its whole body was wrapped in flames. Tweet! The screaming sound of the cannonball exploded on the side of its face from far to near. Suddenly, rubble and dust rose into the sky, like a fountain. Turning his head to see, a mecha with a shoulder anti-artillery was turning out from the back of the mountain. Roar! The abyss demon let out a huge roar, grabbed the big rock beside him, and slammed his round arm against it. The mechanic in the cockpit has pushed the joystick to its limit, as if to break it. But still did not escape the fate of being hit. Only a muffled sound was heard. The mecha flew backwards, parts flying around, spraying out several black fuel, crashing into the mountain and exploding. The orangered flames danced on the stone surface with all corners, like thousands of sparks. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. At about the same time, two wing-shaped mechas shaped like ostriches with two slender mechanical legs flashed from left to right among the canine teeth and rushed forward. Seen from the front, the egg-shaped cockpit, under the dark green windshield, is painted with three large white characters like Wang Tuan. Under the iron wings, four drum-type Vulcan guns were rotating at high speed, spewing out fire tongues one after another, shooting out a string of bullets dense like a curtain of beads. The great demon burst into flames, and the rubble fell apart where it climbed, the sand was flying, and the sky was full of dust. Good job! Kill him! Kill! An excitement erupted from behind the mountainous stone shelters. Soldiers in grey and white tarpaulin uniforms stuck out their heads, holding assault rifles, and shooting frantically at the great demon above. But the high morale lasted less than 3 seconds before it was torn to pieces. I saw the big devil leaped forward, twisted his body the moment he landed, and swept his tail across. Suddenly, the dust was surging, like a giant python flicking its tail in a steel whip, fast as lightning. The two wing-shaped mechas couldn't avoid it and were drawn to pieces on the spot. The driver smashed the windshield and hung half of his body outside, and miserable to the extreme. The intense gunfire stopped abruptly. The soldiers were dumbfounded, as if frightened by the cruel sight. After a daze for a while, they hid behind the rocks one after another. "Boss, what should I do?" Not far behind the big devil, behind a cracked obsidian, a tall and fat soldier, holding a nearly 2-meter-long rocket launcher, asked another man with a silver star on his epaulets and the appearance of a captain. "Waiting for orders." The man poked his head out of the crevice of the stone, looked at the huge back covered with bones, swallowed hard, and replied. Then shaking his hands, took out the aluminum military canteen, twisted it, and took a sip. "Lake Wang Regiment, all charge!" Suddenly, a hoarse shout came from the intercom. The man shivered, and the kettle fell to the ground. The two looked at each other, both in a little stunned. "Boss, what should I do?" the fat soldier asked with some guilty conscience, the meaning in his eyes difficult to understand. "Isn't it just looking for death to charge toward this thing? What else?" The captain smiled bitterly. "Are you going to be a deserter?" "Hey!" The fat soldier clenched his fist and punched his thigh vigorously. "Kill! Da-da-da! Magrant!" Boom boom boom! The next moment, the sound of killing, gunfire, rocket eruption, and explosion sounded through the stone mountain. Go! The captain gritted his teeth, picked up the assault rifle, and rushed out ahead of him. The fat soldier picked up the rocket launcher and followed closely behind. The figure in front is like a high-rise building, covering the sky and the earth. Those eyes with lava flowing were like a sun. The dull roar was even more deafening, as if the world was shaking. On the cold and dark ground, among the rocks, thousands of soldiers, like a colony of ants, rushed forward one after another. Until the end, everything fell into darkness. The roaring artillery gradually faded away, turning into a quiet nothingness. Time flows quietly, silently. I don't know how long it took, maybe a few hours, maybe a few months, maybe a few years. In a dilapidated bunker, a young man in his early 20s woke up. Where am I? With a dazed face on his face, he was talking to himself while looking at the half-iron and half-brick house. His name is Chen Xing, and he is a traverser from the earth. It has been 15 years since I traveled into this parallel world of the near future. He remembered the last moment he was still fighting the abyss demon. In the last scene, he raised his head and watched the huge palm of his hand photographed from above. He just felt the sky dark and lost consciousness. Under normal circumstances, he should have become a pool of meat sauce. I can't die anymore. He raised his hand subconsciously and looked at the digital watch on his wrist. This is a black, multi-function watch with buttons on both sides, which looks very sturdy. Bright green characters are displayed on the 2-finger wide bar screen. Seeing the time, Chen Xing was shocked at first, but soon understood that he was born again. The first time he was born again, he crossed over from the earth, and this second time, he returned from 15 years later. I don't know if you die again, will you be born again? He couldn't help but think. The first life is an earthling, the second life is a mercenary captain, and now it is the third life. Even though he thought so in his heart, he wouldn't be so stupid to really prove it. Well, since God gave him another chance, he would live better. Of course, he had never thought about reaching the pinnacle of life and stepping the world under his feet. In this cruel world, it's good to survive. It doesn't mean that you can get through the sky once you live again. At best, you will be more clear when faced with choices. After clarifying the situation, he began to examine his belongings. After rummaging through the cabinets in the room, his wealth is just a few pieces of clothes, a small purse containing 3 gold coins, 5 silver coins, and 7 copper coins, and the electronic watch on his wrist. This watch is produced by Xifi's company, and it is called Multifunctional Database Information Processing Subend. It integrates many functions such as communication, social networking, scanning, physical data, banking, and transactions. It is called Identity Form for short, or Cyber Watch or Black Watch. Chen Xing's original body is the bottom of society, and after crossing over, he is still the bottom of society, so like most people at the bottom, he likes to use the simple and crude term black table. The Black Table is an identification system client developed by the Human Survival Management Committee after the catastrophe. The so-called cataclysm is the large-scale invasion of alien creatures a few centuries ago. Humans can't resist it, so they have to release a nuclear bomb and let everyone finish the game together. After reaching the age of 10, every citizen can enter a DNA fragment in a nearby town hall and obtain a waterproof, shockproof, anti-friction, solar-powered, mechanical-powered electronic watch. People who do not have a black form are equal to being excluded from human society and are called vagrants. Of course, if the black watch is lost or damaged, it can be replaced with a small fee. It's just that the DNA fragment is the only credential that records the party's information. When social credit drops to a freezing point or commits a serious crime, you will be deprived of the right to use the black table. In the eyes of citizens, refugees are like wild animals. Although it will not deliberately kill, but it will not deal with them, because there is no guarantee at all. Without a black form, it is impossible to carry out digital scanning, nor to conduct normal transactions, or to participate in various social activities, such as making friends, getting married, or posting tasks in nearby town halls, or personal reward tasks, or contacting business and so on. The Black Watch has a real-time holographic image automatic upload function, recording everything that happens around the user. If you are involved in an illegal incident and are prosecuted, it will easily be proven. However, that is within the satellite signal coverage. Once left, the Black Watch cannot upload images to the satellite, and it is difficult to define the facts of the crime. Where there is no satellite signal, it is usually called marginal zone, or dangerous zone or zero zone. Being in such an area, the social credit value will slowly decline, and the rate of decline will increase as the time of loss of connection increases. Generally speaking, if the signal is disconnected for more than 3 years, the social credit value will drop to the freezing point and become a refugee. Chen Xing is now in a small town on the fringe, in a state of disconnection, but as long as he accesses the network once in a nearby regular town within 3 months, his credit value will not drop. He pressed the largest long-striped menu button at the bottom of the watch and called up the current body data. In the ID number, HUM stands for completely human. During the cataclysm, many women were invaded by alien creatures, which gave birth to various half-humans with special bloodlines. Mr. stands for male and Ms. stands for female. The 13digit number behind is the file number of the DNA fragment. His social credit is good, with 3 levels of excellent, flawless, and saint at the top, and 4 levels at the bottom, medium, low, negative, and freezing point. As long as the people whose social credit is medium or below, basically no one is willing to trade. Strength generally refers to muscle strength, agility generally refers to the speed of nerve response, and physique generally refers to cell activity, which is the ability to resist blows, antivirus and disease resistance, and recovery capabilities. Spiritual power is special. After the cataclysm, some humans can perceive and absorb the spiritual energy in the air and use it. The so-called magic is to release psychic energy in a specific way to generate force. There are only 4 types, namely protection type, rapid medical type, energy shock type and weapon amplification type. It may be because of the traveler that there is no spiritual energy in the air of the earth, so Chen Xing's spiritual power is not only in an unenlightened state, but also belongs to the category of low psychic perception. It is necessary to inject 10 spiritual power enhancers. There is a chance for enlightenment. In other words, it consumes 10 more spiritual boosters than others. From the last life until death, he had never enlightened spiritual power, and he was completely forced. In this life, it is necessary to enlighten spiritual power for anything, otherwise it would be too passive to fight against alien creatures. But then again, the black table data can only be used for reference forever, and there are still some differences from the real situation. Even if the Sci-Fi company claims an accuracy rate of 97.93%, in fact, the error rate is still widespread. To put it simply, under holographic scanning, the shooting speed of a gun, the speed of the bullet, and the impact force caused within a certain distance can all be tested. However, the situation is changing rapidly, including the Black Watch itself with slight errors, and the data cannot be 100% accurate. It is also possible for a person who appears to be healthy to die suddenly. In the same way, his low psychic perception does not need to be awakened by injecting 10 boosters, maybe a few, or dozens. He remembers that after the last time he crossed, his eyes were darkened, and many days passed in chaos, until he was almost out of money to eat. He bit his head and began to think of ways to make money. This time, it can't be like this. You have to take advantage of your youth and strength, and strive to climb to a higher height and live a better life. So he began to plan the next work. The first task, of course, is to make money. In this world, there are 2 ways to make money. Either go to a larger town and find a stable job, like him with a good social credit score. With previous work experience, it is still possible to be a courier. But that's just enough to make ends meet. Can't afford to strengthen potions, it will be like that for a lifetime. The other is that he is now like this, a combat occupation. Mercenary is a very casual profession, that is, running around, hunting mutant creatures in the wilderness in exchange for money, or protecting caravans and so on. The reason why his original body came here was to hunt down the corpse dogs and the living dead around the town. As a result, he died before he left the school. When he left the house, he encountered a green living dead who was beaten to throw away his helmet and armor and fled. Although he finally fled back to the small town, he was poisoned and died at home, so he was allowed to cross over. Due to the presence of the mayor in the town, that is, the Wilder Guardian, the corpse group did not dare to approach easily. As long as he can escape back to the town, he is basically safe. Of course, if someone more powerful than the mayor is attracted, the whole place will be destroyed. In the fringe town where he is now, the mayor is a Baron-level wilderness guardian. As long as he doesn't run into the corpse group led by the Golden Living Dead, or the Abyss Demon above the medium size, he can still block him. Since he lost all his original equipment, if he doesn't want to go back to be a courier now, he has to find a way to get some equipment, then go out to hunt the corpse dog, and then use the corpse of the corpse dog in exchange for money, and gradually develop. The corpses of mutant creatures are the main material for refining potions. To put it bluntly, the local lords earn the processing fee for mutant corpses to refine strengthening potions. It's just that the processing fee is really expensive. But then again, even if he wants to return to Longshi Town now and be a courier honestly, without equipment, he will only die in various situations, such as being besieged by stray corpse dogs. Or they were attacked by refugees. Total assets, 8 gold 8 silver 6%. Well, that 6% can be ignored. So, what can this little money do? Chen Xing recalled carefully. It should be enough to buy a second-hand pistol and 3 boxes of bullets. As for protective clothing or something, you can leave it out for now. Based on his 15 years of experience, this is nothing more than a novice village. So he changed into a mercenary uniform made of tarpaulin and went straight out. Leaving the tattered bunker, walking through a shack area, and bypassing several groups of scavengers surrounding the burning waste oil drums for heating, he came to the street of the town. This small town has a nice name and is called Orchid Town. But there is no copper plate relationship with the beautiful and noble orchids. Dirty and chaos are everywhere. Alcohol, drugs, orioles, thugs, criminals, scavengers are everywhere. The name is probably just for the fun of Lord Mayor. Every human gathering place can be regarded as the territory of the local guardian. They can name it arbitrarily, such as Beauty Town and Roast Duck Town everywhere. On the street, the shops were half open and half closed, scattered, and there was a cold scene. This is a small town on the fringe, with not many citizens, but many refugees. After a while, Chen Xing turned into a shop with 2 guns painted on the signboard. "Hey, handsome boy, we meet again. What do you want this time?" A tall, sweet-looking girl of 17 or 18 came up and shook Bai Shenchen's arm to greet him. Although the young girl is not very old, she has a mature charm in her eyes. Pure and enchanting, she has been perfectly embodied in her. That voice, like a yellow aureole from the valley, made people feel comfortable, and the shock, white as the first snow, was even more fascinating and intriguing. At least, 360. However, Chen Xing did not squint and was not moved by the beauty. Because he only later learned how dangerous this seemingly innocent girl is, and what a crazy and bloodthirsty heart it has. Moreover, after he walked out of this small town and visited other weapon shops, he knew how miserable his original body was. She sold 5 pistol bullets with copper plates for 1.5 silver coins. She was known as a brand new pistol, but she was firing a misfire for the first time. The grenade that was thrown out exploded after a few minutes, and it was simply a time-bomb with no legal time. It can be said that a large part of the death of the original body should be attributed to this femme girl. And many years later, he learned that this girl named Aaliyah has a half-demon bloodline, and is the most powerful Bala bloodline, and her later strength has reached the king level. The entire Orchid Town, and even the entire Alongxian River basin is the most powerful existence. Simply put, it is a boss who pretends to be a novice, and goes to the novice village to eat and drink, defrauding the newcomer for pleasure. But now she should not be that strong yet, at best she is a quasi-baron. It stands to reason that he shouldn't come here to buy things, he should go to the street vendor in the back alley. Although it is dark there, it is far from it. If there is a black shop over there, it can be described as a black hole here. But the problem is that he doesn't have enough money. Some shredded meat must be cut out between the teeth of this humanoid Tyrannosaurus. In the last life, at the very beginning, he didn't know that his predecessor was pitted. He stayed in the shack until he almost had no money to eat, and then he waited for a slightly reliable caravan, and then followed them to Longxi Town, redoing his old business, working as a courier for 2 years, and accumulating a little money. Just set sail again. In this life, no matter what, you should get back some justice, for yourself and for the predecessor. Thinking about this, he calmly scanned the girl with his watch. Fucky. The heavy panting sounded closer and closer, and Chen Xing could already see the white teeth of the corpse dog and the saliva sticking to it, reflecting the sunlight. In the long years, although Chen Xing learned a lot of fighting skills, he returned from rebirth and his physical fitness dropped drastically. Most of the skills were not used, and only experience was left. For example, he now has a thick strip of cloth wrapped around his left hand, which he made with only a few pieces of clothing, in order to cope with the current situation. The corpse dog is fast, he only has a pistol, close combat can be said to be inevitable. And after being reborn, he couldn't use any fighting skills that could be used in close combat. Moreover, he had never awakened spiritual power before, so he could not use powerful combat skills, and he did not have a protective shield of spiritual energy. He would only choose close combat when he had to. It can almost be said that as long as you get into close combat, you will lose half your life. Fortunately, the corpse dog is just the lowest level carnivore in the wilderness food chain. He is a man of the 3rd generation, and his age can be a grandfather's veteran warrior. If he can't deal with a corpse dog, he is really shameless. In a blink of an eye, the corpse dog rushed to the bottom of the stone, kicked on its hind foot, raised a ball of flying sand, opened a mouthful of fangs, and rushed towards Chen Xing. I saw the latter with a horizontal left hand, bowed his arms, and sent forward. The corpse dog relied on instinct, saw something blocking his vision, and immediately took a bite. While the corpse dog bit his left arm, Chen Xing's right hand holding the knife passed forward, and the tip of the dagger plunged into the corpse dog's heart, and red blood spurted out immediately. The chest cavity was wounded, and the corpse dog let out a whimper. Chen Xing immediately kicked it, kicking it under the stone. Woo! The corpse dog struggled on the ground, raising patches of dust. As soon as he got up with his neck tilted, a fire flashed above his head. Boom! The head of the corpse dog exploded, and red and white slurry sprayed all over the floor. Green smoke came from the muzzle of the black hole. Chen Xing breathed out, closed the safety buckle, and inserted it back into the armed belt on his back. Raising his hand, looking at the black watch, a set of scrolling data appeared on the screen. Seeing the statistical results, Chen Xing exhaled heavily, feeling that the road ahead is long and there is a long way to go. There is no other reason, it is too difficult to make money and things are too expensive. The market price of a Black Star pistol is between 8 copper and 1 silver, and 3 bullets were used to kill the 2 corpse dogs. After subtraction, less than 3 silver coins were earned. And a primary evolution potion requires nearly 50 gold coins, that is to say, Killing at least 300 corpse dogs is really terrible. Also, his first goal at the moment is not to buy evolution potions, but to buy a two-wheeled locomotive. In the wilderness, the efficiency of walking is too low, and in the event of an emergency, it is very likely that you will not be able to escape. In addition, at night, it is easy to be ambushed without being able to see the surrounding situation clearly. So he must rush back to town before dark. Therefore, locomotives are particularly important. The cheapest second-hand Great Wall horse rider, the market price is around 15 gold coins. With a car, you can go deeper into the wilderness. If you encounter trouble, you can escape with the throttle. The most troublesome thing in the wilderness is the wolves and the refugees. Of course, there are other more powerful existences, such as wilderness pythons, thunderhorn rhinos, scaleless flying dragons, giant living corpses, dead sea vultures, manating sparrows, cemetery marching ants, sand sea storm insects. However, these things generally only appear in places far away from areas controlled by humans. All the people around the town were killed by the local guardians. Chen Xing took out a fiber net from his backpack, put the corpse of the corpse dog in it, and dragged it away. Not having a car is so painful. If you kill 5 or 6, you have to go back, or you won't be able to move more. If you want to, you should drag a pallet out, otherwise the efficiency is too low. In fact, he came out today with the main purpose of trying it out, but he didn't think about hunting on a large scale. After a few minutes, he walked around a large mound and came to a wasteland. The soil here is grey-black, which is not common in the laterite continent. What? He murmured in his heart, remembering that when he came, he didn't seem to pass by here. He raised his hand, called out the compass on the black watch, and looked at it. The direction should be correct. It was about 3 to 4 kilometers away from Lanhua town. He frowned and thought about it. Since the time passed was too long, it seemed that there was no impression, so he continued to move forward. But as I walked, the surrounding land suddenly moved, as if something had burrowed out of the soil. Generally, when this happens, the rookie will first look at the black watch to determine what it is. Those with a little experience will take out their weapons and watch carefully, while those with experience like Chen Xing will definitely leave things behind and run wild. He is not in a team now, alone, and it is difficult to deal with any situation. What's the situation? Let's talk about it after running. The big deal will be figured out, and then come back and pick it up. There is only one fate, and everything else is second. According to his past experience, there are about 4 types that would emerge from the ground. The most unlucky thing was that I met the newly hatched cemetery marching ants with wings and overwhelming the sky, and could instantly eat a wilderness yak into a skeleton, not to mention his small body. But now in summer, the possibility is very low, and judging from the ground agitation, it doesn't look like a marching ant. The second unlucky thing is the wilderness python that just woke up from hibernation. He can swallow a small truck in one bite, and is extremely fast. It may not be able to escape even if he drives the locomotive, not to mention that he has only 2 legs. However, this possibility is also very low. After all, wilderness pythons are not everywhere. Unless it's really unlucky, the kind that even choked to death when drinking water. Then, there are the sickle beetle and the living dead. The former is more troublesome, because the sickle beetle can fly, which is terrible. The living dead are the safest. There is no other reason. They can't run or jump. They are stiff and slow, and they can easily be bypassed. Puff puff. Chen Xing didn't run very far, and suddenly on the ground, a hand sprang out, like sea anemones, densely packed with hundreds of them. Although the scene before him was terrible, he was relieved. It's just the living dead, just run away if you can't beat, it's not a big deal. The living dead appeared 100 years after the cataclysm. When humans drop nuclear bombs on alien creatures and they all die, 15% of humans die directly, 84.9% of humans die in the following nuclear winter, and only 1 in 1,000 people go underground. Refuge, survive. During the long nuclear winter, a large number of human corpses were covered in ice and snow, without corruption. Then, under the influence of radiation, some cold viruses mutated, and something called living corpse virus by later scientists appeared. They are parasitic on human corpses and make them live. But in fact, it was not a resurrection in the true sense, but the body was occupied and controlled by the virus, becoming a brand new species. The living dead have nothing to do with the original body. They belong to low-level carnivores, and their IQ is not as high as that of orangutans. Gurulu. As time went by, 50 or 60 living dead, covered in mud, screamed at Chen Xing, stretched out their arms, and walked slowly. The person involved is not cold about it, and just wants to get back the harvest of his tripped corpses of 2 corpse dogs. The living dead are characterized by thick skin, slow movement, and infinite power. Chen Xing circled the group of corpses, trying to draw them away, so as to drag the corpses. In order to avoid hiding special types among them, Chen Xing carefully scanned it with the black table. Fortunately, I swept it, or I was sprayed with a sip, and I would end up with the predecessor. When the level of living corpse virus in the body is less than 15%, there will be no outbreak, but once it reaches its peak, blood pressure will soar, capillary burst, and finally the skin will lose blood and become alive, which is quite terrible. Even the corpses of 2 corpse dogs, anyway, only a few silver coins, it is impossible to go desperately. He still has 4 boxes of bullets, just hit it again. But as soon as he wanted to leave, he saw the chest of a living corpse gleaming. Obsessively, it turned out to be a gold necklace. Chen Xing's footsteps stopped involuntarily. The thing, which looked quite thick, was worth at least a dozen gold coins. Chen Xing is a very active person, and he quickly made a decision to give it a try. As long as you can get the golden chain, you can buy a second-hand mobile phone, which greatly increases the efficiency and safety of hunting. The group of living corpses moved slowly towards him, about the walking speed of a normal person. The horror of the living dead is that they never rest and can walk endlessly. Once entangled by them, it is a nightmare without waking up. Unless they are eliminated, it will be like a race between the tortoise and the hare. Although slow, but persevering, as long as you stop and rest, you may be caught up. After making the decision, Chen Xing stepped forward and ran around the group of living corpses. His purpose is simple, using his own speed to draw out the living corpse wearing the necklace and kill it. As they ran, one of the living corpses covered with green veins suddenly raised its head back, tilted its body greatly, and then slammed forward, with a wow, spraying out a dark green column of slime. As early as when the leader of the living corpse made a move, Chen Xing had already secretly stored his energy. A second before the mucus was sprayed, he swooped forward and easily avoided the corpse poison spray. He didn't wear protective clothing, and he didn't carry antidote. If he was sprayed, he would probably end up with the original. Wow! The leader of the living corpse failed to attack, and snarled angrily with his hair up. At this time, something unexpected happened to Chen Xing. Feeling the leader's anger, the corpses gathered together. This time is troublesome. The living corpses are gathered together, and he has no chance to start. After going around for a few more times, the corpse group not only did not disperse, but also became denser and denser. Chen Xing fired several shots in succession, but none of them hit the target, and the bullets were blocked by the surrounding living corpses. Now he has no choice. There are 4 boxes of ammunition on his body, with 7 rounds per box, which is less than 28 rounds in total. The life value of an ordinary living corpse is 15 points, and the damage of a second-hand black star is 1/4, even if the gun headshots, it will have 4 or 5 shots. In this way, even if he hits the bullet on his body, he may not be able to kill the living corpse. And even if it is killed, it is difficult to go in and pick up things. They must be separated. But how can it be done? Either drive a truck and hit it, or get a bomb and throw it over. Bomb? There was a flash of inspiration in Chen Xing's mind, thinking of the malicious grenade that Alia gave him. He would definitely not dare to pull it straight away, but it's not impossible to change it. Thinking of this, he quickly took off the can-like grenade from his armed belt. I was about to throw it out, but at this moment, a green slime shot out from the group of corpses. Not towards him, but towards the sky, like a dark green pillar rising into the sky. Oops! Chen Xing had a bad thought, holding his head in both hands, and fell to the ground. In the next second, the green slime rained down. When it touched the ground, it immediately made a sizzling soft sound, and wisps of white smoke came out, accompanied by a smell of burnt and strong acid. Di-do-do-do. The Black Watch issued a dangerous warning sound, which meant that his life was seriously threatened. When the acid rain was over, Chen Xing didn't care about the pain all over his body was burning. With a wave of his arm, he threw the fragmented grenade out. Then he pulled out the pistol, held it in both hands, half-kneeled on the ground, and aimed at the grenade that flew into the group of corpses. In! Chen Xing roared in his heart, and steadily squeezed the trigger with his fingers. Boom! The muzzle expelled bright flames, and a bullet spun out, rubbing the air, and with the scorching heat, it shot at the grenade rolling down in the air. Boom! The warhead hit the target, and the grenade exploded suddenly. A hot air wave rushed in all directions, and Chen Xing's long and short hair was blown wildly. Several living corpses in the center of the explosion were blown up in the air, and their limbs and arms flew down everywhere. Taking advantage of the gap between the corpses, Chen Xing dashed forward, speeding up and shooting. Boom boom boom! Boom boom boom! In the smoke of gunpowder, the living corpse in front was beaten up and down. At a distance of more than 10 or 20 meters, Chen Xing rushed to the target living corpse, grabbed the necklace on its chest, kicked it on its abdomen, and shot it in the head at the same time. In less than 2 seconds, Chen Xing completed the 3 actions of tearing off the necklace, kicking the living corpse, and shooting a headshot, then turned and ran. Ho ho! After a few minutes, Chen Xing finally ran out of a safe distance, looked at the corpses not far away, and gradually reduced his speed. For the first time, he raised his hand and glanced at the Black Watch. Fortunately, the toxins from living corpses only rose to 7%, which is still within a safe range. As for the epidermal injury, just go back and deal with it later. He put away the pistol and looked at the necklace he had just received. It feels heavy, at least 80 grams or more, with a round stainless steel pendant hanging on it. After groping for a bit, there was a hidden button. Chen Xing pressed it once, and with a click, the lid of the pendant turned over. A handful of black ash fell out and scattered with the wind. It should be the old photos in the past, which have been completely corrupted in the hundreds of years. A line of small characters is engraved on the bottom of the pendant. Chen Xing looked in the sunshine carefully. I hope I never leave, the sunshine will always return. There is also a set of numbers below, 7234016665. Seeing this line of words, the depths of Chen Xing's memory seemed to tremble, and some dusty information emerged. This pendant is the identification plate of the Underground Survival Center in the Longxian River Basin of the Red Soil Continent, and the number on it is the number of the Survival Center. 723401 represents the Ambergris River Basin on the Red Soil Continent, 6 represents the northern wilderness of the Ambergris River Basin, and 65 is the number 65 Survival Center in the northern wilderness. Before the cataclysm, in order to prevent World War III, mankind created countless underground survival centers. After the invasion of alien creatures, these underground survival centers became the last hope of mankind. In an instant, tens of thousands of mushroom clouds rose from the ground, huge shock waves collided with each other, and tall buildings collapsed in rows. Then, with the advent of nuclear winter, all things died out. Those who hid in the underground survival camp barely survived. But only a small part of them can survive the nuclear winter and see the sun again. Most of them were silent in the long dark night. In an underground survival center, even a small operational error or even the lack of a spare part will trigger a chain reaction and eventually lead to the destruction of all the staff. Any problem with water supply, electricity, food, medicine, personnel training, and childbirth is tantamount to a sentence of death for the entire underground survival center. Seeing this pendant, Chen Xing suddenly remembered that during the time when the last life was washing dishes in the Longxi town bar, he heard the mercenaries talk about it, saying that he had not expected that the remains of an underground survival center had been discovered near Lanhua town. Just a few kilometers away, no one found it so close, it was blind. Chen Xing looked at the table below, and now there is no satellite signal, so coordinate positioning is impossible. But based on the walking distance and the general direction of Lanhua town, combined with the simple map on the watch and previous memories, it is preliminarily inferred that this location is the water supply station of the number 65 Underground Survival Center. Because he remembered that when the mercenaries were talking, they mentioned that the land above the water supply station is grey and black, so it's easy to recognize. As for the specific location of the Underground Survival Center number 65, he doesn't know, but he can find it through the water supply station. But the difficulty is not small, because a survival center may have several water supply stations, and they are several kilometers apart. He seems to have discovered this underground survival center number 65 early. Because in the previous life, he had only heard of it after spending half a year in Longxi town. And when he was in Lanhua town, there was no such sign at all. Because the discovery of underground survival is a big thing, there are many valuable things in it, all kinds of treasured resources, life-sustaining equipment, guns and ammunition, everything. Businessmen, mercenaries, and nobles from all over the world will flock to them to get a share of the pie. Such popularity is enough to make a fringe town become overcrowded. The colorful tents are like the ocean, dazzling people to see. He must make good use of this information to win his first pot of gold. About an hour later, Chen Xing returned to Lanhua town. Instead of going to the house in the shack, he opened a room in a hotel on a commercial street with 2 silver coins. He first took a cold shower, changed into clean clothes, and then ran to the pharmacy opened by the mayor, bought a bottle of healing spray with 3 silver coins, returned to the room, took off his clothes, looked in the mirror, and removed the wound on his body. Spray it from top to bottom. His skin was slightly burned and covered with small wounds. Chen Xing grinned in pain when the mist mixed with disinfectant and skin growth hormone sprayed on it. But the trouble is that most of the wounds are on the back, and he can't reach it himself. I had to run downstairs and asked the waitress at the front desk to come up and help. 5 Jin Junzi. The waitress said blankly when she saw Chen Xing in the room. This is a girl in her early 20s. She has a good look and a good figure, but her skin is not white enough, but she is quite smooth. Such a figure and appearance can be regarded as a high-end item in fringe town. The problem of insufficient white skin is because the water and soil in margin town cannot produce fair-skinned girls. Only the place close to the ambergris river restores its verdant greenness and the river water is clear, so that a beauty with skin surpassing snow can be produced. But Chen Xing is not here to do this today, and he has no money either. When the trouser pockets were turned over, they were all empty. "Miss, you misunderstood," Chen Xing said politely. "It's too expensive, isn't it? You look pretty good, 1 less, 4 golden jewels, you can't be less," said the waitress. "This." Chen Xing smiled awkwardly and picked up the healing spray on the table. The waitress was startled first, and then let out a cut with a scornful look, took the healing spray and sprayed it towards Chen Xing's back. She. The white mist filled the air with a faint smell of medicine. After a while, the waitress took 2 copper tips and left with a look of disdain. Poor ghost. The waitress didn't forget to say something when she brought it to the door. Chen Xing grabbed his hair very uncomfortably, locked the door, and fell asleep. After running for most of the day, I was a little tired. Chen Xing woke up from the pain the next morning. Despite the disinfection treatment, the wound caused by the acid solution is still inflamed. It was hot and painful. It seems that I can only find a doctor, otherwise the condition may continue to deteriorate, until the skin rots and falls off in large areas. But this also means spending a few gold coins and 3 to 4 days of recuperation time. He just found the clues to the underground survival center number 65, and he must make a small fortune before the others. Otherwise, when everyone knows, he probably won't even be able to share the leftovers. After all, he is currently just a small ant that anyone can easily pinch to death. He can't deduce a specific time, so the faster he moves, the better. It would be great if there was a teammate who could recover. Chen Xing couldn't help thinking. In this world, in addition to doctors, there is another profession called rapid healer that can treat trauma. The biggest difference between them and doctors is the word quick, which can provide timely and effective treatment to the injured. With the support of special talents, the rapid therapist can transform the psychic energy in the body into life energy, and output it to the injured body, and quickly restore the injured tissues. He is the best first aid worker in the world. Usually, doctors are helpless with internal bleeding. They can regenerate muscles and stop the bleeding with a single remedy, and restore it to normal in an instant. However, the number of rapid therapists is extremely rare. Only those who have awakened the natural life energy transformation talent can perform the recovery technique. Among all talented awakeners, there is only a 3,000th chance that this ability will appear. Because of its scarcity, it is also called godsend magic, while the bottom of society is called green talent. The number of talented awakeners is originally not many, multiplying the two, the probability is as low as 1 in tens of thousands. Therefore, there are not many rapid therapists in the entire Red Earth continent, and even the whole world. They have a transcendent status. Under normal circumstances, only those large mercenary groups with more than 10,000 numbers, or noble troops above the Earl, will have 1 or 2, and ordinary people have no chance to contact. But God is fair. One door is opened and another window is closed. As a talented awakener, the quick healer cannot cast any spells except recovery. Between his thoughts, he thought of someone. To be precise, it was a woman named Yang Bailiu. Chen Xing in the previous life had a relationship with her. It was a woman who seemed to think so big and white at first glance. More than 1.8 meters tall, plump and slim, fair skin, beautiful appearance, and calm temperament. And the reason why he thought of this woman was not because of her figure and face. But 10 years later, Yang Bailiu will become the most powerful rapid healer in Dragonstone Town, with the second-level Great Recovery technique. As long as there is a breath, she can be saved. But these are not the most critical ones. The most critical thing is that the rumored starting point for Yang Bailiu is very low. Compared to her glorious position in the future, she is now living a very miserable life. Yang is an ancient surname and one of the 7 families in the northern wilderness of Grey Point. It is said that when Yang Bailiu was born, his mother died because of her size. Her father loves her mother very much, so he hates her and has been ignorant of her since childhood. When he was a teenager, he was sent to the royal capital of the country, the Lizard City, to a boarding school for aristocrats. After that, her father continued, married a lady from a big family, and gave birth to a daughter. When Yang Bailiu was in graduate school, her father suddenly died of illness. The stepmother immediately cut off her tuition, and the Yang family regarded her as a broom star and didn't like to take care of her. In desperation, Yang Bailiu had to interrupt his studies and came out to earn money as a mercenary. At that time, her therapist talent had not yet been awakened, and she had no combat experience. The only thing she knew was Yang's ancestral martial arts, an ancient fighting technique called Bagua Palm. For the mercenary group, Yang Bailu's abilities were like chicken ribs, but those who watched her beauty and were afraid of the power of the Yang family, so that she was no one in the mercenary association. Probably because he couldn't go down in Greyhorn City, Yang Bailu went to Longxi town with the caravan and met the old witch Huabaidu, who was later called the Dragon Shepherd. Under Huabaidu's command, Yang Bailu was originally just a logistics officer, responsible for the daily supply of the mercenary group, but with the awakening of talent, he gradually rose to become one of the most dazzling new stars in Longxi town. Chen Xing looked at the table below. Today's date is Dr. 26125516, and it is still 2.5 months before the legendary Yang Bailu falls to Longxi town. It seems that it is not impossible to cut off the Hu of Baidu. But he quickly gave up this unrealistic idea, because with his current strength, even the desolate Yang Bailu could not be conquered by him. No matter how bad the other party is, she is also the eldest lady of Yang's family. Since he was a child, he has been well fed, trained well, and drank evolution potions as sugar water. His attributes must be more than a little bit higher than him. Chen Xing took out the gold necklace, took off the stainless steel pendant and put it in the inner bag. This thing is worthless, but it contains important information and cannot be seen by people. Then, he scanned the gold necklace with the black watch. Doo-doo. With a light beep, a set of data appears on the screen. Seeing the valuation of the black watch, Chen Xing couldn't help but frown and clenched his fists vigorously. This price has exceeded his expectation. I thought it was only a dozen. Then, he simply packed up his things and went out. When passing by the front desk, a contemptuous gaze swept over again, but he was happy and ignored it automatically. After leaving the small hotel, he went to the bank in the town. This is the only fortress-style building in Lanhua town that is fully reinforced concrete and several layers of steel plates. And deep underground, a high-frequency particle jump communication device is installed, which can directly connect to the central server of the World Bank. An old gentleman wearing a black tuxedo, standing tall, wearing a bow tie, and a single plate of gold glasses received Chen Xing. After looking at it with a Singai magnifying glass for a while, the old gentleman quoted the price, 17 gold coins, so black that he was horribly black. For this, Chen Xing politely expressed his gratitude, and then turned around and went out. Selling things to banks requires at least 2 layers of skin. Then he checked the pistol and dagger and turned into the alley on the corner of the street. The alley is dimly lit, with brick and iron walls on both sides. The old wooden door opened inward, and the room was dark and dark. "Handsome guy, do you want a woman?" A fat warbler was wearing a red dress, colorful beads, heavy makeup on his face, and a layer of purple eyeshadow, smoking a cigarette and winking at Chen Xing. The latter raised his hand and signaled not free now. Going further inside, there appeared a number of stalls on the side of the alley, spreading black oilcloth, and arranging a mess, including firearms, bullets, dried meat, rice crackers, mechanical parts, and various small objects and small crafts, such as iron kettle, copper box lighter, necklace made of animal bones, bracelet made of beautiful stones. There are all kinds of things. A little old man groaned. His face was extremely solemn. He repeatedly looked at the gold necklace in Chen Xing's hand, frowned, and said with some regret, "It's gilded." Chen Xing turned around and left before he could speak. "Wait, hey, young man, wait!" The little old man exclaimed anxiously with his yellow-toothed mouth open, "I'm dazzled, I'm wrong. How much?" Chen Xing stopped, turned his head, and asked blankly. The little old man stretched out 5 fingers slowly. "Wait, 8, no, 9. Chen Xing walked forward without looking back, no matter what the little old man called behind. "The quality is okay, 20. After a while, someone finally quoted a reliable price, but Chen Xing was still dissatisfied. The valuation of the black watch is relatively accurate, at least it has to sell for 23. The Black Watch could not scan the purity of the metal, so he went to the bank first to determine the material, and then went to the back alley to find a buyer. But after a round, the highest asking price was only 20. After walking for a while, the clothes rubbed against the skin, and some sweat, and the small wounds all over the body were aching. Forget it, go see a doctor first. Thinking about this, Chen Xing left the back alley and came to the street. Pedestrians on the street are a little sparse, a gust of wind blows up the dead leaves and dust, and the rusty iron sign is swaying, looking desolate and lonely. According to the impression in his memory, he found a small clinic with a red cross sign on the glass of the storefront. When I walked in, the floor inside was still bright, the walls were full of instruments with falling patent leather, and there were several iron beds on which patients were lying. In the middle is an operating table, beside it stands a middle-aged male doctor wearing a white coat and a mask. 1 gold and 7 silver. After examining Chen Xing's injury, the doctor quoted the price. Chen Xing happily paid the bill. The doctor took out a box of medical instruments from the cupboard, brought him to treat the wound, and put on ointment. Then, 2 bottles of anti-inflammatory drugs were given. Will you not deal with your corpse poison? The doctor asked before leaving. Wait a little longer. Chen Xing said, and then left. It's not that he doesn't want to deal with it, but that he doesn't have enough money. After selling the gold necklace, I have to buy locomotives and ammunition, so let's see how much is left. As long as the corpse poison level is less than 15%, it will slowly decrease over time. After leaving the small clinic, Chen Xing soon discovered that he was being followed. It seems to have been spotted during the inquiry in the back alley just now. Although no one dared to do it on the town street, the feeling of being watched made him very uncomfortable, and he couldn't help speeding up his pace, wanting to get rid of the opponent. He turned around in the streets and alleys, and after a few minutes, he finally got rid of the stalkers. But as soon as he breathed a sigh of relief, a crisp voice came from the store on the side, making his heart beat. Handsome guy, here again. The voice sounded like a silver bell, but it made Chen Xing extremely depressed. Before I knew it, I passed by Alia's gun shop. I really just got out of the wolf's nest and entered the tiger's den again. For this black heart demon girl, he avoided it, but it was not easy to offend the other party, as he hadn't heard. Had to stop, smiled, and said hello, I'm seeing you again. I heard that someone just shot a gold necklace in the back alley. Isn't it you? Alia twisted her waist and walked out and asked with a smile. This? Chen Xing hesitated for a while, and replied, yes. Since the other party asked so, he must have received the exact news, and there is no point in lying. And Lanhua town is so big, see you when you look up. Forcibly denying it will only worsen the relationship between each other, and he doesn't want to be missed by the future king class. Why don't you take care of me if there is a business? Alia pouted, akimbo, with a sulky look, I thought we were acquaintances. I was thinking of coming to you. Chen Xing said against his will. Okay, take it out and have a look. Alia suddenly showed surprise, stretched out Bai Shenchen's little hand, and exclaimed in excitement. Some things are better tasting. Well. Alia looked at the gold necklace, her brows gradually frowned. Chen Xing suddenly had a bad feeling. As expected, after a few seconds of silence, the demon girl stretched out 5 jade-like fingers toward him. 50. Chen Xing asked with some surprise, as if the other party really offered an incredible price. Alia rolled her eyes immediately, and then stared at Chen Xing, as if there was something on his face. In this way, the two looked at each other for a while, and finally Alia opened her lips lightly and said, 20, 1 price. 25, 1 copper plate must be won. Chen Xing's expression condensed, and he said without giving back. In order to save money, he couldn't even bear the corpse poison. At this moment, how could he give in? You. Alia Feng's eyes widened, her full chest undulating violently. She seemed to be very angry. In those ruby pupils, fire seemed to burst out. Seeing that the conflict was on the verge, she narrowed her eyes in the next second. The anger on his face instantly turned into a boundless charm. That kind of switching is natural and smooth, without the slightest disharmony. As if it should have been, it was natural. She chuckled slightly, revealing her neat and white teeth, and then slowly twisted her waist, raised her hand, and patted her round/stilted buttocks with a pop. In an instant, the hip waves surge, like a large trembling jelly, the people are dry and the heart is shaken. Let you touch it, how about it? The devil girl chewed a smile on her mouth and blinked at Chen Xing. Water waves and shimmering in those eyes. At the same time, he lowered his body, revealing a thrilling whiteness on his chest. Chen Xing turned around and left without any muddle-headedness. Even if the opponent is the future king level, he can't care about so much. This is too bullying. It takes a few gold coins to touch it. He is really a fool who has never seen a woman. 23. A calm voice came from behind. Chen Xing slowed down, but was still walking forward. 24. The voice became gritted teeth, and there was a crisp sound of heel stomping. Deal. He turned back and threw the golden chain over. Although Aaliyah is not a good thing, it still has a fixed place of business, which is more reliable than the vendors in the back alley. After a while, in Aaliyah's hateful eyes, Chen Xing's black watch made a soft sound, and a group of messages emerged. Seeing the money arrived, Chen Xing showed a knowing smile. Boss, do I need to replenish some ammunition? Aaliyah asked blankly, with an attitude of business affairs in her tone. At this moment, she finally looked like a serious businessman. Can the quality be guaranteed? Chen Xing asked. Don't worry, every bullet in our gun shop is purchased by Jade Industrial's agents in Longxi Town to ensure your safety during the wilderness journey. Aaliyah replied very officially. I need 5 boxes of Black Star pistol ammunition, 2 fragmentation grenades, and 1 incendiary grenade. Chen Xing said. He has proven his ability to survive in the wilderness. If the other party wants to do his business again, he must have a sense of integrity. In fact, although the goods sold by the vendors in the back alleys are cheap, the quality is uneven, and they are certainly not as good as the regular firearms shops. Moreover, he is alone, has no reputation or status in Lanhua town, and does not have sufficient deterrent power in personal strength. The vendors will still cheat him. And just run away after the pit, even if you want to be held accountable. At least Aaliyah still has a storefront, so she always has some scruples. A large part of the reason why the predecessor was pitted came from itself. Aaliyah felt that it was impossible for him to come back alive from the wilderness, so the pit was a white pit. But when Chen Xing came back, the situation changed essentially. If you cheat him again, it will affect your reputation. Each Black Star pistol has 1 silver bullet, each box has 7, a total of 35 in 5 boxes, 1 gold for fragmentation grenade, 1 gold and 2 silver for burning grenade, a total of 6 gold and 7 silver. This time I will give you a discount, 6 gold will do. Aaliyah took out things from the closet and placed them on the cabinet one by one, and said. Chen Xing checked for a while, and after confirming that there was no problem, he paid the gold coins with the black watch. Thank you for your patronage. Aaliyah said with a bow. I want to buy a second cell phone car, do you have any recommendations? Chen Xing asked again after collecting the good stuff. Number 6 Orchid Street, the owner is called Dog King, and gave him my business card. Aaliyah said as she took out a small card from the cash drawer and handed it to Chen Xing. On it was written a line of rounded Western Continental Aaliyah's gun shop. Thank you. Chen Xing nodded in greeting, and then left the gun shop. After more than 10 minutes, he came to the Dog King's car shop at the address Aaliyah said. On the large signboard, the 4 Eastern Continental languages of Wild Rush were sprayed with colorful paint. There is a row of old locomotives in the shop, and the ground is full of black oil and scattered locomotive parts. Guest, what do you need? A middle-aged man with his hands behind his back walked over and asked. How do you sell this? Chen Xing asked, pointing to a heavy-looking, grey patent leather 12-heeled motorcycle with 4 dark green canvas bags hanging on the side. There are also other types of locomotives in the store, such as a cruise locomotive equipped with a high-displacement Thunderfire engine Wilderness Overlord, a blade locomotive equipped with 12 airbags below Desert Flying Bird, and a rocket mounted behind it. A shuttle locomotive with a propeller Blazing Steel Wolf. But these are not something Chen Xing can afford, at least 3 to 4 digit gold coins. Compared with the Great Wall Iron Horse he wants to buy, no matter the speed or the off-road ability, it is not the same grade. The Great Wall Great Iron Horse is a traditional locomotive that runs on 2 large rubber wheels. For these high-end goods, the wheels are only used for auxiliary purposes, and they are all flying in the air using spray airbags. 28. The middle-aged man said casually. Being a black-heart businessman again, Chen Xing did not speak, and directly handed Alia's business card. Oh! The middle-aged man was puzzled, took a look, and then gave it back to Chen Xing, quoted a price of 18 gold and 5 silver, with a full gas tank. Chen Xing did not make a statement, raised the black watch, and swept down the locomotive. Can you connect? Chen Xing asked. The onboard computer is broken. The middle-aged man shrugged and said again, I don't need a big horse anyway. Don't treat me as a rookie. Chen Xing frowned and said. Without an onboard computer, he cannot check the condition of the car. He is not a mechanic, and without relevant knowledge, he cannot distinguish the condition of the car with the naked eye and experience. You want to buy more than a dozen gold coins. Do you think too much? The middle-aged man said, if you want to trust my dog king, just drive away. If there is a problem, I will provide you with a warranty. Forget it. Chen Xing turned and left. It doesn't make sense to talk like this. He would rather buy a car later than buy one without an onboard computer. Wait. As soon as he walked out of the store, the dog king stopped him. You were introduced by the reedied girl. No matter how you say it, I can't refute her face. Wait a moment. It didn't take long for the dog king to launch a great wall cavalry from the back room and start it easily. The black table was swept, and the data came out. Chen Xing pressed the OK button on the lower side of the table, the black watch made a beep, and the new data rolled up. Dog King reported a set of numbers, and Chen Xing lost it. Chen Xing entered a new command, and more detailed information came out. After Chen Xing finished his inspection, the Dog King stretched out 3 fingers and said, Don't say anything else, add 3 pieces of gold, otherwise I will lose a lot. Chen Xing settled down, not having enough money, so he asked, Can you provide a little loan? How much? The Dog King asked. Chen Xing thought for a while, opened his palm, and motioned for 5 gold coins. 1 month, including the interest, is 5.5. Dog King hesitated for a while, said. Okay. Chen Xing nodded in response. Subsequently, the two signed a loan agreement with a black form. 1 month later, Chen Xing has to repay 5 gold and 5 silver, with a monthly interest of nearly 10%. Once the payment is not made on time, his credit rating will continue to decline until the principal and interest are repaid. However, the subsequent interest will be calculated in accordance with the World Bank's standards, rather than agreed by both parties. Then, Chen Xing paid 16 gold and 5 silver. In less than 2 hours, the money from the gold necklace was gone, and I owed 5.5 gold, and I had to go out to make money quickly. Looking at the time, it is now over 1:30 noon, and there is still a lot of time before dark. Buzzing. Chen Xing rode on the motorcycle, twisted the accelerator, and drove out of town. This Great Wall cavalry, thick-skinned, solid, cheap and durable, is the favorite of the low-level mercenaries. In his previous life, Chen Xing rode for more than 10 years, he rode for express delivery, he rode for hunting, and rode for war. Speaking of it, I was so mixed up that I had never touched the handle of a jet locomotive in my life. This life can no longer be like this. Make money quickly while you are young and strong. In his thoughts, Chen Xing drove out of Lanhua town along the street. The distant wilderness, ups and downs, is endless. Chen Xing was in a good mood when the slightly hot wind blew on his face. He twisted the accelerator vigorously and rushed forward. You. Suddenly, there was a roar from the rear side. Turning his head and looking at it, it turned out to be a four-wheeled sand truck, trailing with billowing smoke and dust. Chen Xing couldn't help but frown, and it was the person who was stalking him again. Obviously, the other party is not for his belongings. That necklace is nothing at all in front of a capable person. The only possibility is that they saw something else on the necklace, an ancient ruin. Chen Xing twisted the throttle to maximum and rushed to the north. In the wilderness, in the zero zone where there is no satellite signal coverage, there is no law at all. The people who used to be in the town to be amiable and have a good chat, when they get outside, they tear off their skins, and they are cruel beasts. Although it was hundreds of meters away and unable to scan, Chen Xing could conclude that there must be more than one person in the car. With his current strength and equipment, he could not beat it at all. Woo! Amid the hum of the engine, the speedometer pointer entered the red zone. 90 kilometers, it was already the highest speed in the wilderness. But after running for more than 10 minutes, turning left and right, still failed to get rid of the stalker. Compared with the two-wheeled locomotive, the four-wheeled dune vehicle is faster, but it is far less flexible than the locomotive and has some gaps in off-road capabilities. Many locomotives can go, but sand vehicles may not be able to go. Once in an open place, the dune buggy will approach quickly, and will slow down once it reaches the climb and bend. Under the circumstances, the two sides could not help each other, keeping a distance of 300 to 400 meters, chasing and catching up. Chen Xing kept driving north. After about 30 kilometers, the road ahead became more and more difficult. There were many broken stones of different sizes on the ground, and the locomotive was faltering. But the sand buggy behind was still chasing perseveringly, causing him to curse secretly. To the north of Orchid Town is the periphery of the human-controlled zone and the depths of the wilderness. In Chen Xing's memory, there will be a large stone mountain ahead, and the terrain will become more and more complex. Once there, the advantages of locomotives will be more obvious. After more than an hour, the terrain began to climb upwards, and the speed of both sides was much slower, only about 4,050 kilometers left. Shoo, hoo! Suddenly, a scream of bullets piercing the air came from my ears, and then there was a loud gunshot. Da-da-day! 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 Chen Xing hurriedly lowered his body and lay half on the locomotive. It can be heard from the gunshots that the opponent used an AK-47, and at least 3 guns were firing at the same time. It seems that the other party also knows that after entering the mountains, they will be lost, and can't wait to shoot. Fortunately, the effective range of AK-47 is only 200 meters. Although more than 1,000 meters is still lethal, shooting accuracy cannot be guaranteed. The two sides are 300 to 400 meters apart, and there is a small black spot in the naked eye. It is still a bit difficult to hit him. Moreover, both sides are moving at high speed, even with a sniper rifle, it is difficult to hit. Furthermore, bullets are very precious things. Rifle bullets cost about 2 to 3 silver coins. The opponent can't keep firing. Sure enough, the opponent stopped shooting after finishing a box of bullets. After half an hour, Chen Xing walked around a stone mountain and finally threw him away. After running forward for more than 10 minutes, he drove up to the top of the mountain and looked far away. He didn't see the sand cart, and finally heaved a sigh of relief. He estimated that it was at least 70 or 80 kilometers away from Lanhua town. It is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If you rush back now, you can still arrive before dark. But coming out tomorrow, the other party will follow again. And the other party is richer than him, maybe he will catch up after changing a car. So he couldn't go back, he would spend the night in the wild, and wait for tomorrow to go to the water station, kill all the living corpses on it, and then look for the entrance. This is already the periphery of the human-controlled zone, which is very dangerous. On the way here, he saw a lot of wandering corpse dogs and living dead, as well as some hordes of walking wilderness refugees. They eat almost everything, as long as it is alive, it is their food. He rode on the motorcycle and moved forward slowly. Before nightfall, he must find a hiding spot with a wide view in order to deal with the dangers that may occur at any time. Ho ho! Between his thoughts, behind the stone in front of him, a black shadow suddenly rushed towards Chen Xing. The distance between the two was less than 5 meters. Chen Xing subconsciously drew out the pistol, opened the safety button, and blasted it over. Boom! The black shadow fluttered in the air and landed on the ground, struggling endlessly. Chen Xing turned the front of the car, tightened the throttle, and ran over directly. Crack! The heavy wheels pressed over the head of the corpse dog, and there was a crisp cracking sound. Looking at the twitching corpse on the ground, Chen Xing couldn't help but wipe his cold sweat. If it wasn't for luck and a shot hit, it is estimated that he is lying on the ground now. Must pool money to buy a primary evolution potion as soon as possible to activate his talent ability Danger Perception. It is precisely by this ability that he in his previous life can survive all kinds of dangers. Danger Perception is also called Soul Tentacles or Grey Talent. People with this talent can sense the dangers around them and ignore obstacles, which is a very practical ability. The Danger Perception of LV1 has a range of about 15 meters. For example, just now, Chen Xing was able to spot the corpse dog hiding behind the stone in advance and respond early. Either run, or fight, or set a trap. Then, Chen Xing continued to explore forward. But this time his speed was much slower, and he tried to avoid wherever he could hide things. When I looked up, there were bare stone mountains everywhere, gravel rugged, and a lonely and deserted scene. About half an hour later, he found a stone cave halfway up the mountain. It is about half a person tall, 1 meter wide and more than 2 meters deep. Just got in and could sit, leaning against the cave wall. There are some compressed biscuit wrappers and empty tin cans in the hole. It is not difficult to see that someone has stayed here. Look closely, the wall is engraved with faint handwriting in stone. Yang's Heike came here for a trip. Fuckboy, you eardy. Long yet is really lonely, add my social number 1169765274. Auni sauce, oh ha yo. Chen Xing read the messages of different people for a while, cleaned up the garbage, then went out, unloaded the water, food and small kerosene stove from the body, and then blocked the locomotive at the opening. If you are in danger, you can resist it. After settling down, he first washed his hands and face with water, then turned on the kerosene stove and boiled some hot water to drink. I opened a canned meat, added dried vegetables, and cooked it with the noodles. The northern wilderness is located to the north of the Ambergris River and is also the northernmost part of the Red Earth continent. It's not a wasteland, it's just a rock, and it's impossible to grow crops. Most of the food comes from the Longxi River basin. Because of the long distance, fresh vegetables and meat are very expensive. Most people eat this kind of canned meat with dried vegetables soaked in water. After eating, Chen Xing sat at the entrance of the cave, looking at the piles of rocks under the mountain and the sparse vegetation between the rocks, starting to daze. I have to say that this location is very good, with a wide field of vision, and you can see thousands of sights. Farther north here, past the mountains, is the Black Dead Forest. The radiation there is still serious, and you must wear protective clothing to enter. And the plants there have undergone a full-scale mutation, which is completely different from before the cataclysm. One of the plants called black moss is the most famous. It is precisely because of its existence that it is difficult for the radiation to dissipate. It can absorb and use radiation pollution and stay in the cell sap as a necessary nutrient for survival. On the surface, it appears that black moss is absorbing radioactive materials, but in fact, due to the extremely high energy contained in radioactive materials, black moss takes a long time to digest. Not only did it fail to clean up the pollution, but instead prevented the natural decomposition of radioactive substances. As time passed, night fell, and the sky was shining with stars. Chen Xing placed 2 explosive traps on both sides of the cave with a drawstring and grenades. Once a creature approaches and pulls the silk thread, the grenade will be detonated. Even if it fails to explode the target, it can wake him up. After finishing the arrangement, Chen Xing went back into the cave, blocked it with a locomotive, and then leaned against the cave wall and closed his eyes to rest. Woo! I don't know how long it took. Chen Xing was suddenly awakened by a howl, and quickly climbed to the entrance of the cave and looked out. Below, black shadows rushed between the piles of rocks as fast as a gust of wind. Worm the wolf. When the term crossed his mind, Chen Xing was almost out of breath. Kong Hualan is the real overlord in the wilderness. Its body is covered with a hard shell, and its life is extremely strong. Use an assault rifle to shoot at close range and burn out a whole box of bullets. It may not be able to kill one. Even one is not something he can deal with at this stage, not to mention that Konghua wolves are a group of animals, a group of at least hundreds of them. He subconsciously looked at the locomotive. The Great Wall Cavalry, at a speed of 60 km per hour, was as slow as a tortoise in front of the Konghualan. You know, a wormed wolf running at full speed can reach 120 km per hour. If it were in the wilderness, he could barely run, but in this kind of gravel and uneven mountainous land, he was caught up in the blink of an eye. The best way right now is to retract back into the cave, hold your breath, and resign yourself. Sha sha sha. Whhhhhhhhh. In the dark, Chen Xing covered his mouth and nose with his clothes, curled his body, trying not to make any noise. The sound of quick footsteps constantly passed from outside, and the sound of breathing was looming, long and short, making him frightened. At least 50 wormed wolves ran from nearby. From this, it can be seen that the size of this wolves group might not be less than 500. In his mind, the scene of being dismembered by a pack of wolves uncontrollably emerged. He involuntarily drew the pistol and slowly pushed the safety button away. When necessary, he would give his temple a shot. Anyway, it's all dead, so why bother to be so indecent? It is better to solve it yourself than to endure the suffering of falling apart. Hey! He sighed in a low voice. Unexpectedly, when he came back from rebirth, he just got a little better and was about to die. If you say no regrets, it is absolutely impossible. Woo! The howling of the wolf sounded again, and the footsteps passing by became more and more frequent. Roar! But at this moment, a roar resounded through the wilderness, causing Chen Xing's ears to hum, causing a moment of deafness. He didn't care about so much, and quickly climbed to the entrance of the cave and looked down the mountain. Thousands of meters away, a huge figure rushed. It was at least 100 meters high, and it was more than 30 meters in one step, and the gravel fell apart when the footboard stomped on the ground. Wherever he went, it was devastated and quashed. Corpse King! Chen Xing's eyes were like copper bells, and his hair stood up. In the next moment, the worm-like wolves flooded towards the King of Corpses. The latter clasped his hands together, straightened his chest, rounded his arms, and smashed toward the densest place of wolves. Boom! With a dull loud noise, the ground was smashed into the hollow. The gravel flew horizontally, and the sand flew up. The swarming wolves were beaten to pieces in an instant. Only a small part ran up to the shoulder of the Corpse King along the arm, biting frantically towards the neck. Wow! The Corpse King raised his head and let out an earth-shattering roar. He grabbed a few wormed wolves on his neck, stuffed it into his mouth, and chewed loudly, making a crisp bone-cracking sound. In an instant, the wolf's aura diminished sharply, wailing in a low voice, and dispersed to the sides, like a diverging river. Woo! But at this moment, a howl of a wolf rushed straight into the sky, piercing the clouds and cracking rocks. Following the prestige, on the distant mountain peak, a white light flew down, as fast as a flying rainbow and lightning, hitting the Corpse King. Because the distance was too far to see the situation, Chen Xing quickly took out the telescope from his backpack. In the blink of an eye, the Wolf King rushed to the shoulder of the Corpse King, bit on the blood vessel in his neck, and jerked. Puff! Chen Xing seemed to hear the sound of a cylinder leaking, and then he saw a black blood spring spraying out from the neck of the Corpse King, straight into the sky. That scene, even though he was the third generation, was stunned. After all, in his previous life, the most powerful thing he had encountered was the Abyss Demon that had only taken his life. Wow! The Corpse King clutched his neck and howled in pain. The Wolf King flickered left and right, quickly jumped to the top of the mountain on the side, raised his head, howling at the moon. Woo! In a short time, the wolves screamed in response as if they had been doped. Then came forward, rushing forward, like a dark yellow mountain torrent, pouring down from the surrounding peaks. Within a few seconds, the wolves surrounded the Corpse King, climbing up like dense yellow ants, biting endlessly. The blood spattered everywhere, the skin and flesh peeled off, the scene was cruel to the extreme. Ho-ho! There was a sudden sound of rapid breathing in his ears, and Chen Xing was shocked and hurriedly retracted. Immediately afterwards, a figure passed over the cave and rushed down the mountain. With this accident, Chen Xing never dared to look at the entrance of the cave again. Shrinked in the innermost, wrapped in a blanket, trembling, the atmosphere didn't dare to take a mouthful. The sound of howling, roaring, cracking bones, gasping, and running sounded continuously outside, like a symphony, telling the madness and cruelty of the wormed wolves. In the darkness, time became extremely slow. It seemed that every minute and every second had passed for a long time. In order to avoid the sound and light, Chen Xing didn't even dare to look at the black watch. He didn't know the exact time at all. I don't know how long it took, like a whole century, the sound gradually subsided. The thin morning light shone into the cave, and Chen Xing got out of the blanket, carefully moved to the entrance of the cave, and looked out. Hiss! Seeing the sight below, he couldn't help taking a breath. The eye is a huge white bone lying horizontally on the ground. From head to toe, it is nearly 100 meters long, tens of meters wide, and more than 10 meters high, like the support of a building or the keel of a big ship. The snow-white bones were stained with translucent mucus, gleaming in the morning light, revealing a strange beauty. Chen Xing observed for a while, and after confirming that there was no danger, he swiftly engined the car and rushed down the mountain. He didn't want to wait even a second for this kind of ghost place. When passing by the white skeleton, he only felt terrified, and he wanted to turn the throttle to explode. That hill-like Corpse King was eaten completely. How many there were? It's not an exaggeration to say thousands. If this group of insectized wolves rush into Lanhua town, no, they rush into Longxi town. It is estimated that this large human town will be erased from the map overnight. If he can live long enough and have offspring, he will definitely tell them that night. With a sense of anxiety, after 2 hours, he finally returned to the wasteland. The terrain has become much flatter, and it has become a hard, red land. The speed of the car has increased greatly, giving him a feeling of escape. Following the direction in his memory, comparing the maps repeatedly, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he came to the grey land where he had encountered the corpse group last time. In the telescope, the corpse group thousands of meters away are wandering aimlessly. He took out 3 grenades, buried them in the soil one by one, and pulled the buckles with silk threads to detonate them at a long distance. Although the previous transaction was fairly pleasant, he couldn't believe this girl with the blood of the Balrog. In the memory of later generations, this female devil has always been known for her moodiness, cruelty and danger, and neuroticism. People in the Ambergris River Valley called her the Golden Eye Witch, half crazy, and capable of doing anything. From this it can be seen that it is not impossible to make a little joke to him. But I don't know why, her eyes are red now, so I don't know how the title of Golden-Eyed Witch came from. After all, in his previous life, he was just a small person, a mercenary squad leader at the bottom, and he had no access to king-level powerhouses. And what is the concept of a king-level powerhouse? The place where he is now, called the Northern Wilderness, is located in the northernmost part of the Ambergris River Basin. There are 3 principalities in the Northern Wilderness, namely the Red Dragon Principality, the Black Feather Principality and the Red Rock Principality. Among them, the Red Dragon Principality has the largest territory, with 4 cities. The lord of the country is a duke, known as the Red Dragon Duke. The other 2 countries have relatively smaller territories, with 3 cities respectively, and the lord of the country has only the marquis title. These 3 principalities, along with more than a dozen other principalities in the Longxian River Basin, belong to the Longxian River United Kingdom. The United Kingdom of Ambergris River is also known as the Red Country, and dominates the northern part of the Red Earth continent under the rule of the Malin royal family. The so-called king class is a strong man whose status is equivalent to that of the king of the Red Kingdom. Anyway, Chen Xing couldn't touch the heel. No, to be more precise, it is an existence that will never be seen for a lifetime if you raise your head. From a certain point of view, being pitted by the future king level is not a form of negotiation? No, a pit is a pit, whoever he is. If there is no shortage of 4 gold coins, he will touch the king's butt. Thinking of this, Chen Xing's arrogance paused, twisted the accelerator, and rushed towards the group of corpses. Boom boom boom. Woohoo! Guraloo! He drove the locomotive with one hand, shooting at the corpses while circled around them. Being disturbed, the corpses stretched their arms one after another, making muddy calls, moving towards him. But the speed is really not enough. In front of the locomotive, it is no different from standing still. Vomit! The dark green corpse leader leaned back and sprayed a stream of acid at him, but was swayed by the front of his car and easily avoided. Boom boom boom! The bullet hit it, and green blood blossoms appeared. Wow! The leader of the living corpses was angry and called the group of corpses to chase him. After a while, Chen Xing gathered the corpses together and led them to the first trap. During the driving, he was seen leaning forward, fishing towards the ground, grabbing the silk thread, and pulling it forcefully. Tumultuous! Among the corpses, the flames rose to the sky. The burning grenades exploded among them, and the liquid with flames stuck to them and burned continuously. Wow! The group of corpses wailed in pain, but they didn't stop in their footsteps, and swayed towards Chen Xing. The latter lifted his hand and scanned it with the black watch. After a while, the corpse group stepped on the second trap, and Chen Xing rang the grenade. Boom! Then there is the third trap. The group of corpses was blown up and down, and the flesh and blood were flying everywhere. In an instant, most of the corpses died, half of the remaining crippled, and half of their lives bottomed out. Chen Xing began to click and shoot, and after finishing 3 boxes of bullets, there was a lonely leader of the living corpse. Boom boom boom! Boom boom boom! Boom boom boom! Boom boom boom! Chen Xing kept a distance of more than 20 meters, circled it, a bullet hit it, and the dark green mucus splashed out. It fell on the ground and made a burning sound, emitting a lot of white smoke and pungent nose. Smell! Wow! The leader of the living corpse let out an angry howl, but had nothing to do with Chen Xing. After 3 acid sprays, there was nothing left in the stomach pouch to spray. In the end, only half of the arm and 1 thigh remained, and the head of the corpse riddled with holes squirmed on the ground, and the wailing voice became extremely weak. Chen Xing stopped the car, held guns in both hands, aimed at its head, and pulled the trigger. Boom! The bullet spun out and hit its head. Then, Chen Xing drew out the knife, put on rubber gloves, and dug out a finger-sized dark green crystal in its chest cavity. All leader-level creatures, or advanced creatures, have energy crystals in their bodies, commonly known as crystal nuclei. The crystal nucleus is the raw material for refining evolution potions and attribute enhancement potions, just like the corpses of mutant creatures, but with higher content and more concentration. At the same time, the crystal core is also a universal currency recognized by the World Bank. Most of the time, it is more valuable than gold coins. Next, Chen Xing took out a shovel, dug a big hole, dragged the body over, threw it into the hole, and filled it with soil. When I look back, find someone to transport it back by car, which can exchange a lot of money. The corpse of an ordinary living dead, sent to the factory in Longxi town, can extract 0.4 grams of energy crystal, which is nearly 4 to 5 silver coins. There are more than 50 corpses here, but it's a fortune. After the corpse was buried, it was almost dark. Chen Xing drove the locomotive around looking for a place to spend the night. Now is not the time to go back. You must first find the entrance of the underground water station before making the next step. The night in the wilderness is very dangerous, but it is relatively close to Orchid Town, with only a small number of wandering corpse dogs, plus his motor vehicle, it will be relatively safer. Before dark, he found a big rock over 3 meters high and set up a small tent under it. Then he washed his hands, opened the cans, cooked the noodles, and had a nice meal. That night, apart from the barking of a corpse dog from time to time in the distance, nothing special happened. No words for a night. At dawn, Chen Xing woke up. Sleeping in the wilderness is really a must. Last night, he used rocks and locomotives to form a relatively safe angle. Set a few more warning traps. If it weren't for encountering humans, there shouldn't be much problem. After boiled some hot water and ate a compressed biscuit, Chen Xing got on the locomotive and returned to the place where the dead body was killed yesterday. He raised his head and rode slowly, carefully searching every part of the grey earth. General, where should the entrance be? In general, the entrance should be where the living corpse crawled out. But the scope is too large, and some clues must be found before excavation. About half an hour later, he found a rusty water pipe, so he took out a military shovel and drilled a hole down the water pipe. In order to prevent people passing by from seeing him, he would spread the soil evenly around him every once in a while. In this way, you must walk closer to see the straight hole in the ground, which greatly increases the concealment. A traveler in the wilderness would not take the initiative to approach another traveler if he was not confident that his strength was far superior to the other. Both parties will maintain a sufficient safe distance to facilitate evacuation at any time. Digging a hole is a huge project. In addition, after digging for a while and stopping for a while, after working all day, Chen Xing only dug down 5 or 6 meters. Cover the hole with a tarp, drove back to the big rock, rested for a night, and continued digging the next day. Doo-doo. Digging and digging, the black watch suddenly sounded a reminder. Chen Xing opened his sleeves and took a look. Yet. Chen Xing clenched his fists and yelled as an encouragement. Although the overall situation is still very low, 1 point is 1 point, and the accumulation of less will make more. One day, the elite combat power that will climb up. In this world, combat power levels are generally divided into elite level, guard level, lord level, king level, and emperor level. The standard for the elite level is physique of 25 or more, agility of 15 or more, and strength or spiritual power of 25 or more. It is difficult for most pure humans to exceed 20 in 3 categories of force-sensitive bodies by exercise alone, and it is necessary to inject attribute strengthening agents to improve them. Spiritual power is entirely dependent on talent. Some people are naturally powerful and can absorb spiritual energy, condense the spiritual pool, and even swallow the world, drink hundreds of rivers, and open up the boundless spiritual sea without the aid of drugs. Some people are born deficient, and no amount of potentiation medicine will help. Only those who have reached the elite level can be regarded as fighters in the true sense, and at the same time, they are also the minimum standards for obtaining the title of nobility. In the United Kingdom of Ambergris River, elite fighters who have served for more than 10 years can automatically obtain the title of knight. If you have enough combat exploits, you can still get the title of baron. The guardian level standard is very vague. The elastic range is very large, and there are no hard and fast requirements for personal attributes. Because in actual combat, in addition to personal attributes, it also depends on talents, combat skills, experience, spells that can be cast, and so on. A person with all attributes of 50 is likely to be killed hidden by a person with all attributes of only 20, but with very good talents. Therefore, the evaluation criteria of the guard level mainly come from combat exploits. After accumulating to a certain level, you will be able to obtain the title of Guardian of the Wilderness and own the fief of a town. As for the Lord level, King level, and Emperor level behind, Chen Xing had only heard of it, but didn't have any in-depth understanding. A low-level mercenary does not really need to know much. However, according to the theory of scientists, the physical strength of carbon-based life is hardly higher than 30 times that of standard humans. In other words, the limit of the 3 attributes of a force-sensitive body is 299. As for spiritual power, it is theoretically unlimited. Therefore, some scientists believe that spiritual power is the key point for carbon-based life beyond its limits. Although it is said in theory, in fact, people with more than 100 strength-sensitive body attributes are already rare. Of course, there are more than 150, but they are all legendary. And when the attribute exceeds 90, the body density has exceeded the detection range of the Black Watch, and no specific value can be measured, commonly known as explosive watch. Chen Xing's goal in his last life was to become an elite mercenary. After only working hard for 15 years, when he was one step away from the goal, he was slapped and slapped by the great devil of the abyss. Since God gave him a chance to do it again, no matter what, he had to be a guardian. Being the mayor, holding the soldiers of a town, is still very prestigious. At least for Chen Xing in the previous life, the mayor was already a big figure out of reach. On the 4th day of digging, the ground suddenly sank and collapsed. Fortunately, Chen Xing had already prepared, tied a rope around his waist, connected to the locomotive and the rivets on the ground, so he didn't fall off. It was dark underneath, and Chen Xing took out the flashlight and shot it down. In the incandescent beam, there is dust and dirt everywhere. He loosened the rope, dropped down, and quickly touched the ground. Looking around, this is an underground space of hundreds of square meters. There are many large water tanks around, the 1/10 of meters high, either vertically or horizontally, connected to countless thick water pipes, half hidden in the soil, but there is not much rust on the surface. The top is arched, and a large hole with a diameter of 5 or 6 meters has been broken. And he came down from here. As a large amount of soil fell from the gap, the ground rose a lot. Judging from the equipment buried in the soil, it is at least more than 10 meters deep. Based on past experience, he quickly judged that this is the impurity precipitation room of the water station, the first step in the water purification process. Although no danger was found, Chen Xing pulled out his pistol and explored cautiously. Wow! When approaching a water tank, the soil on the ground suddenly arched up, and a corpse grabbed the soil and got out of the ground. Chen Xing drew out the dagger quickly with his eyes and hands. When half of the body of the living corpse was just unearthed, he held it backwards, plunged into its temple, and squeezed it hard. The living corpse waved its arms wildly, and soon dropped its head. Chen Xing wiped the blood from the dagger on his pants and inserted it back into the armed belt around his waist. Some people like to tie a dagger to their calf. Chen Xing is not used to it, and it affects his actions a bit, making it easy to knock it off. After exploring for a while, another living corpse emerged. Chen Xing followed suit and killed him with a single blow. He is running out of bullets now, so he can save as much as he can. After 10 minutes, he searched all the places, except for the 2 living dead and a lot of giant jugs, nothing special. However, he also found the location of the entrance, just dig a few meters down to open it. Chen Xing rested for a while. After eating something, he began to dig. Shoes Hasha. In the quiet and dark underground space, the sound of the friction between the shovel and the sand echoed, which seemed particularly infiltrating. Chen Xing III was a man, and he had been a mercenary for more than 10 years, and he was accustomed to life and death. As long as it is not the immediate danger, you will not be afraid. Glug. After half an hour, Chen Xing dug open the ground, revealing most of the iron gate. Immediately twist the lock and open the door. Wow! At the moment the iron gate was opened, a large amount of soil evacuated, forming a small soil slope. The flashlight shot inward, the black and white tiled floor, the long benches, and the rows of metal lockers. Chen Xing took a round of photos. It was empty and there was nothing, so he relaxed, and slid inward along the slope. Wow! As soon as he entered the door, Chen Xing suddenly got wind behind his head and hurriedly rolled forward. Then he drew his pistol and fired consecutive shots at the living corpse hiding behind the door. Boom 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 boom. Chen Xing was so frightened that the bullets were shot out without money until the living corpse fell to the ground. Hey! He wiped his cold sweat with his sleeve and exhaled. There are still a few bullets left, and the danger is so dangerous that it can't be explored anymore. However, since we have come to the dressing room, let's see what we can gain first. Kaka. He walked to a row of lockers, pulled them, and found that they were all locked. Had to pick up the shovel, smash, and pry again. Kong bang bang. The huge sound echoed in the small space, making people palpitate, for fear that it would startle the monster hiding in the dark. Crack! After smashing it a few times, the locker became loose, and Chen Xing pulled it, and a lot of things fell out. There are magazines with big beauties printed on the covers, and all kinds of small rusty objects, gloves, knives, lighters, and so on. After flipping through it for a while, there was nothing valuable. Disappointed, Chen Xing opened the second cabinet. As soon as the cabinet door opened, Chen Xing's eyes suddenly lit up. Apart from a few rotten camouflage uniforms, there was something wrapped in black tarpaulin. Now I have made a profit. What is wrapped in this kind of tarp can only be one thing: a gun. He quickly took out the package, the outer rope shattered when touched, and the outer tarpaulin fell off automatically. But after repeatedly wrapping several layers, there is no corruption inside. The tarpaulin was peeled off layer by layer, and a strong smell of diesel came out. Gradually, a black and shiny Uzi submachine gun was revealed, in addition to 3 boxes of bullets. Chen Xing was immediately overjoyed, took it out and tried it. At least it seemed to be intact. Then, he opened all the cabinets, but no more firearms were found. Instead, he found a gold brooch and a diamond ring. The sparkling diamond is very beautiful, at least half a carat. After the search, he dared not open the locker room door because there were not many bullets, and the Uzi submachine gun that had just gotten in his hand had not been tried yet. Those bullets have been stored for many years. God knows if it can still be used. Now that you have gained something, don't take the risk for the time being. Thinking about this, he returned to the precipitation room and climbed up the rope. Then cover the hole with a tent cloth, cover the mud, and remove the traces. After everything was set up, I rode on the motorcycle and headed to Lanhua town. In the afternoon, Chen Xing returned to Lanhua town. As soon as he came back, he went to the middle-aged doctor and spent 1 gold and 5 silver to get the medicine again. Most of the wounds are crusted and are slowly recovering. Then he went to Alia's shop. Line up the 3 things on the cabinet. The latter raised the black watch and swept it past. Rows of bright green, rolling data are reflected in the ruby pupils. How much? Aliyah retracted her gaze and asked in a flat tone. Pack, 55. Chen Xing said. Oh. Aliyah seemed a little surprised. With suspicion on his face, he glanced at him a few times and asked, are there any additional conditions? Chen Xing suddenly smiled. His offer this time was indeed lower than last time. The purpose is to mention other conditions. I want a loan. Chen Xing said. Aliyah wrinkled her nose, shook her hand, and said coldly, you should go to another house. I think, I have fully proved my ability, look. Chen Xing spread his hands and said, I am back intact. Then he looked at the jewelry and crystal nuclei on the cabinet and reminded, and it also brings a lot of gains, and. His tone became meaningful, it's still on the premise that the equipment is not so ideal and there are some minor problems. You said. He smiled slightly and asked Aliyah, really? Aliyah looked at him, her red eyes seemed to gush out fire. Chen Xing still looked calm and relaxed. Although he was very flustered, he couldn't help it. He urgently needed a sum of money to buy the evolution potion. At present, the one who is most likely to lend him money, or in other words, is most likely to be coerced and lured by him, is only Aliyah. In this orchid town, he was unaccompanied and his eyes were blackened. Who else could he hit without hitting her? To blame her for pitting her predecessor, but letting him take it. The king class is indeed very powerful, and he is indeed very scared, but if he does not survive that time, what is the point? After thinking about this, he decided to do more on Aliyah. Anyway, it's offended, one more piece and one piece less, there is no essential difference. How much do you want? Aliyah asked coldly. Chen Xing gestured, 80. 80. Aliyah widened her eyes, as if looking at a monster. Do you think I'm a bank? She raised her voice, her tone was full of anger, and then threatened, don't think girls are easy to bully. While speaking, she narrowed her eyes and flashed a pale golden light. Shimmer. Although it was only a moment, Chen Xing was like falling into an ice cave, as if he was glanced at by the ancient fierce beast. That feeling is like an ant facing the giant golden pupil that slowly opens in the sky. At that moment, the coercion of the vast sea almost crushed his consciousness to pieces. But he bit the bullet and insisted, I can give you double the interest, as long as I can come back alive, you will have a considerable income. He looked into her eyes and said sincerely, why, no, try it. After a long silence, Aliyah let out a cold snort and gritted her teeth and said, the last time. Coming out of the gun store, Chen Xing only felt that he had just gone through a life-and death catastrophe, even more terrifying than encountering the insectized wolf pack. Pulling hair from the devil girl's body is like grabbing food from a tiger's mouth, which really makes him a little scared. The cold sweat had already soaked his back, and it was cold and cold, as if he had just been fished out of the water. After borrowing the money, he bought another 20 gold coins of ammunition, including Uzi submachine guns, Black Star pistols, and several grenades. Aliyah's monthly interest rate went straight to 20%. Although it is terrifyingly high, with his current situation, it would be nice to be able to borrow money. After all, in the wilderness, death is the norm. Even if a lord-level powerhouse, a negligence, it is possible to hate on the spot. Afterwards, he cleared up his mood and went to the pharmacy opened by the mayor. Although the price here is more than 30% higher than that in the back alley, the medicine is directly injected into the blood. Places with bad reputations don't dare to buy them at all. Otherwise, once the tube goes down, it will be all poison, and there will be no chance to reason. If he has partners and a team, others will have scruples. But he was alone, and if he was pitted, and there was not even a person to seek justice afterwards. I want a primary evolution potion. Chen Xing Chao said to a good-looking saleswoman. A total of 100 gold coins, thank you for your patronage. After the transaction was completed, the saleswoman bowed and said. Chen Xing returned to the hotel where he had stayed before and opened a room. Lock the door, pull out the injection, and start intravenous injection. The bright yellow liquid flows into the blood, then pumps into the atrium, and flows to the limbs. Chen Xing only felt very comfortable all over, as if he was in warm water. Gradually, he completely relaxed his body, and his consciousness drifted between dream and reality. There was nothing in his head, no thoughts, no thoughts. He was indulged in it, unaware of the passage of time. I don't know how long it took, there was a boom in his mind, it seemed that something had been broken, and his head gradually returned to clarity. The gaze looking out the window became deeper. Suddenly, consciousness became a tangible and qualitative viscous liquid, like the tentacles of an octopus, continuously extending and touching. The world in the sea of consciousness became grayish-white, quiet and peaceful, without a trace of movement. After a long time, consciousness shrank back like a low tide. Chen Xing moved his body. Stood up. At this time, his natural ability danger perception has been successfully activated. Currently at the first level, the sensing range is 15 meters. Continue to inject the medicine to reach the highest LV3, and the range increases to 35 meters. After that, intermediate evolution potion and advanced evolution potion are needed. The advanced ability of danger perception is transcendent perception, and the second advanced is Eye of God. Whether you can advance to success depends on your talent, luck, and the number of injections. The talent is almost a bit, you can use the quantity to make up. 100 evolving potions are defeated, and as long as they are not dead, novices who are novices can also advance successfully. It's just that the gold coins needed for 100 middle and high-level evolution potions are an astronomical number for ordinary people. Furthermore, even the great nobles and merchants who can afford the money will feel that the gain is not worth the loss.